And Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has again denied allegations of inappropriate behaviour after a series of alleged messages have been leaked. Here to get into all that with us is host of talkSPORT's On Track podcast, Jon Jackson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Lewis. Great to see you.
John.
I know it's hard to see what they look like when they got helmets on, but I'm definitely not Lewis
Not Lewis
Hamilton. I'm not the same stature.
Jermaine's just as excited though. Listen, you two are F1 fanatics. You're really looking forward to Bahrain and everything getting underway.
Yeah.
There's a huge shadow over that. We'll get to it with Christian Horner in just a minute. But beforehand, talk to us about what we can expect and the things going on this evening and the race tomorrow.
Yeah, so Free Practice 3 has just finished. And I know that if you're an F1 super fan, you'll have watched FP1, FP2 yesterday, and you'll have just finished watching FP3 while listening to this excellent broadcast, of course. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Jermaine will know this, that when they're testing out the cars in FP1 and FP2, they're trying different strategies. They'll be doing long runs. So where they finish doesn't really matter. But this FP3 gives you an idea of where the cars actually are in the pecking order for the first time this season, because they will be trying out what they're going to try in qualifying later on. And Carlos Sainz, the Ferrari driver, has just finished fastest ahead of Fernando Alonso.
Oh.
Everyone's talking about Red Bull. And I know you're a Lewis Hamilton guy, so we'll talk about Mercedes in a minute. But you know, everyone's talking about Red Bull, and Red Bull's drivers, Max Verstappen was third fastest and Sergio Perez eighth fastest. So, you know, it could be a bit of a mix-up this year. I'm going to put it out there and say that Red Bull will probably dominate again. Let's face it, You know, there's been developments in the cars from last season, but, you know, until we get to 2026, there's not going to be these huge changes and new rules that come in. And we might see a lot of driver changes at the end of this season in anticipation for next year. And obviously, we know Lewis Hamilton's already moving on, going to Ferrari. But this season's going to be really interesting to see if Red Bull are as dominant as they were last season, where they won all but one race. And I quite like that I'm looking at these timing stats now, and a Ferrari driver is quickest and an Aston Martin driver is second quickest. However, Red Bull may still be holding things back, and when qualifying happens later on, yeah.
Okay. Do you not think that FP3 is too... It's a bit of a gamble to hold all your power back? I think that's more corresponding of how potentially qualifying may go.
It's really tricky with how little practice time they get now. And Fernando Alonso's come out and said this, that he can't believe for a world championship that is a record 24 races this year, they only get 3 test days and they're only in the car for half of that. And then obviously they have these free practice sessions because, you know, he's a 2-time world champion. He knows what he's doing, and he's certainly had this resurgence, and, you know, certainly showing just a few moments ago that he's really getting to grips with this car this year and still having that love affair he had at the start of last season. Yeah, to hold things back would be a little bit foolish. But if you're Red Bull and you know that everything in that car is down, you know, you don't have to show your full hand straight away. So we might tune in later on in a few hours' time and watch qualifying and watch Max Verstappen blow everyone away. I wouldn't be surprised, but wouldn't it be nice to have a bit of a surprise just to mix it up?
Yeah, competition. Yeah. Healthy competition, I think, is something that's missing, obviously, from F1 at the minute. To see, you know, Verstappen, he's won 44 of the last 66 races. 19 of those came in the last 22 races of that last season. That doesn't feel like healthy competition. Okay, there's sometimes that person who's always dominant and can run away with it, but I hate to bother the F1 purists. Is that not a bit boring?
The
it
F1
it was last season.
Last season did get a bit much.
Only
because
Ferrari won a race.
Carlos Sainz won in Singapore, and that was a moment where I'm sure you'll agree. We were like, "Way, like someone else has done something." Then it went straight back to, no, Max is winning every single race now, isn't he? And yeah, it can get a bit like that. I was talking on my show on talkSPORT 2 about, you know, I would love to watch Hamilton versus Alonso and watch that rivalry rekindle itself now that Alonso's got a car that's, you know, good enough to fight Hamilton. And we didn't even get much of that because Hamilton's car actually was even worse. So Alonso at the start of the season was too good and we didn't see many of those battles. But the fact I'm talking about battles for like 5th place does suggest that, you know, who's winning is kind of a foregone conclusion, which I hope we don't see this year. And it would be nice to have Sergio Perez, perhaps, you know, in that same Red Bull car, maybe challenge Max Verstappen a little bit more. You know, if he doesn't step up.
I think with Perez is that the car is more suited to Verstappen. Yeah. I think they've got total different driving styles, hence why it's the same car, yes, but it's more suited to Max Verstappen's style, hence why Perez can't get the best out of it. That's why he's 8th, you know, in qualifying. He's 7th, finishing the race. And we're talking about Ferrari, though. They've always had one lap pace. last season, in qualifying, Leclerc's signs was usually, close to Verstappen or even second. It's the race run. It's the race trim that, they need to focus on.
And reliability. And decision-making, strategy. Some of the strategy last year was questionable.
Let's talk about Hamilton.
Let's talk about this.
Mercedes.
Go on.
When we get into Horner.
We're going to get on to one in a minute, right? So I've got some Sergio Perez who's going to talk about Lewis Hamilton and football, actually, weirdly. I want to play you in a second, but I want Jermaine to tell me about Lewis Hamilton's season this season. Obviously, he knows he's going to Ferrari.
Yeah, he's going to Ferrari, but I think he wants to go out with a bang, similar to Klopp. The car is a lot better than last season. They are comfortable already with it. It's a better drive. The chassis is a bit further back where Hamilton likes it, to feel the rear of the car. And FP1 and FP2, I know that, like I said, a lot of teams are holding back, but being 1 and 2 for George and Hamilton, it looks like exciting times. And, the updates and the front wing, which is a great innovation that they've got.
Yeah.
I think they are a lot closer this season than people may think. I think people are writing them off saying that Ferrari may be the fastest, but I think Mercedes could be a dark horse.
I hope so. Lewis Hamilton was 12th in free practice 3.
That doesn't sound good.
But what I'll say is when I was watching it, and actually they were agreeing on the commentary, he looks more comfortable in the car. Obviously last year we saw all the bouncing, the porpoising down the straights. As you say, things have been shifted back and it's got more balance. So I'm intrigued to see how that goes. And obviously he's got it in his head that he's going to be leaving and going to Ferrari next year. So how's he going to cope with that? I think if you've won 7 world championships, you can probably cope with, being in the moment and concentrating on what you're doing at 200 miles an hour.
When he goes to Ferrari, do you think he wins again? Is that like foregone conclusion?
I think
he's got a better chance.
Better chance. Okay.
Yeah,
it's a no-lose for him because if he stays at Mercedes, he might have a car that's not good enough. Whereas he goes to Ferrari, they might have a secret weapon. There's rumours that Adrian Newey, who's at Red Bull now, who designed this championship-winning car, might fancy a new challenge as well. There's something that has attracted Lewis Hamilton to move to Ferrari that may come to light. I reckon there's got to be something behind the scenes. He's got to have seen something that he has made him think, okay, this is where I need to be. Yeah. Shall we hear from Sergio Perez because he starts by talking about what his thoughts are on Lewis's move to Ferrari next season?
Well, I think Lewis is a very experienced driver, but it's a massive challenge when you change teams because there are a lot of things that are done differently. The way you exploit the whole lap, we all come together within a couple of tenths, but the way each team gets the laps is very different to anything else. So I think it's an interesting dynamics.
When you look at the other drivers on the grid, there's a lot of uncertainty after this year. A lot of drivers maybe not under contract, people moving around and things like that. When you look at, other than yourself, let's take Red Bull out of the picture, which drivers will be mounting the biggest challenge, do you think, this year? Which teams, perhaps?
I think we've seen it at the end of last year, Mercedes, Aston's, Ferraris, McLaren's, they came really close to us. So it will be a matter of who's done the biggest step of all. So I think let's wait and see.
How much collaboration do you have with what you want out of the car? Are you able to just say, look, there's this little thing about the car, it's a very technical thing, can we make a change? Does that happen between driver and technical team?
Yeah, definitely it does. And it's really important, that we are able to improve, keep that consistency within us. It's a massive one.
And finally, talkSPORT's a massive football station. Do you have a team you support?
In the UK?
Yeah, or any team.
Yeah, I love football. I love my football team is America in Mexico. It's the one we support a lot.
What about a UK team then? Which one have you chosen?
Who do I have? Newcastle. Alice loves Newcastle. United. I love watching the Premier League in general. It's the best league in the world.
Did he just ask who was with him what team
he asked his PR, Alice.
What's my Premier League team again, Alice? It's Newcastle. It's Newcastle.
Or Man United.
Do you know what he said to me afterwards, right, off camera? He said,
Celtic.
He just, word in my ear. No, word in my ear. He said, yeah, I love Celtic. No, he said, I know where Klopp's going. And then he walked off. It was like a really cool, like mic drop moment.
Well, I know where Klopp's going. He's retiring, no?
The beach.
He thinks he knows. Be going elsewhere.
He thinks he knows where he's going.
Bayern.
Yeah.
No, shut up. But
I
listen,
don't know. He could be. He's quite a hard character to read, Sergio Perez. He might have just been pulling my leg.
Absolutely at it. Listen, let's just focus quickly on Christian Horner. The Red Bull boss is under pressure today after a leak is damaging his reputation. He was cleared of inappropriate behaviour by an independent investigation, and now these leaks have come to light over the last 24 hours. It does not look good, John. These leaks spell a little bit shady behaviour, flirty.
Yeah, obviously these screenshots. It was 70 odd messages that were sent.
Not verified.
They're not verified at the Times. I know Matt Lawton's been on the station a lot today. You know, he's been very trying to seek verification on these things. 149 members of the press, people in the paddock, other team bosses. You know, basically a mailing list of Formula One insiders was sent this Google Drive full of 70 odd images. They're all screenshots, all photographs of WhatsApp conversations, and he has come out and said he won't comment on anonymous speculation, and he wants to reiterate he's always denied the allegations. The interesting thing is that this is just a huge distraction. Whenever whatever you look at into the situation of what has happened, what hasn't happened, we're talking about it now when we should be talking a bit more about the race. So it's a huge distraction. It's a huge distraction for not only Red Bull, the other drivers, but also the championship itself. And actually, you know, the people behind the championship, Mohammed bin Suleiman, the FIA president, and also Stefano Domenicali, the F1 chief. They meet every Friday. It's a common thing. They talk about the race weekend. You know, they'd obviously be talking about this and the impact it has on the championship, and why everyone and all the headlines are about this one man and some alleged messages, and not, aren't we looking forward to a record-breaking season in F1?
However, you know, say, okay, these aren't verified, and yes, he was cleared of any wrongdoing, but Red Bull didn't publish their findings. Therefore, this leak has come out, and it looks like somebody is out to get Christian Horner. Now, if you get to access to see this, I've looked through some of the messages myself. It's an abuse of power. It's male entitlement in the workplace, and somebody far more powerful not accepting that this person has a personal life and totally overthrowing any sort of respect he's got for her, for his own family, for her family. And it just doesn't paint a very good picture. Do I think he deserves to be cancelled or stripped of his workplace or anything like that? No, he's not a bad person. But when you're at the top, you have to lead by example, especially in a day and age now where there's so much focus on respect towards women in society and women in sport. So it's such a terrible look for Christian Horner. I feel more sorry for his wife, Jerry Halliwell. Like we say, it's not confirmed, but he is crossing a line if this is true. He's absolutely gone far too far, and it's more now embarrassing from his part. He doesn't deserve to be completely thrown out of the sport. I do not think that, but he does deserve to be held accountable if these are in fact true.
And of course, there are loads of sponsors and partners involved in these teams, and Ford are partnering with Red Bull on their engines, and they've not been happy with how the investigation has been as transparent, or at least the information hasn't been shared with them. We've seen Toto Wolff, the Mercedes team principal, and Zach Brown, you know, the equivalent at McLaren. They've come out and said there needs to be more transparency as well, because you know, there's speculation, there's rumours. There's, you know, some of the rumours that I won't bring up because they're rumours. I mean, the fact that I'm in the UK hearing them and they're emanating from the paddock in Bahrain, it's a dangerous place to be.
Is it fair to say that Red Bull have seen these leaks, these messages, and deemed them not authentic? Or have they not seen?
They have not been verified.
Yeah, so Matt Lawton spoke about this last night on Kickoff, you know, the Times chief sports correspondent, and he's been reaching out to get them, you know, get them verified, because one of the most dangerous things is if they're fake, for example, that they could be, you know, they're quite damaging. If they, you know, for what they're purporting to be.
It's easy now in this world to fake a lot of messages, how things can look. But listen, if they are real, it's not a good look, and he just has to be held accountable if it is the case.
You've got to think that whatever the situation, where, you know, whether he's obviously been cleared of the original thing, whether they investigate anything at all, it's just a huge distraction. And do you want this distraction hanging over your motorsports team?
Yeah, statement, I would say, pending at this moment in time. Listen, Jon Jackson, host of On Track, thank you so much. Enjoy the race when it comes. You're listening to Spanna Hearn and Jermaine Pennant here on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. Shop Toolstation's top 10 deals
on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.